The real opportunity lies in the transparency. Complexity shouldn't necessarily hinder us from being able to purchase things. It's really about transparency, knowing what we want to buy and being able to do the due diligence ourselves is really sort of the key towards being a different industry. This is Hanna Wu, founder and CEO of Amplify Life Insurance, and this is the future of insurance.
Hanna, it's great to get some time with you and sit down. And I do have to recognize your real California sky background because you're sitting outside. That's the only exposure to the sun I've had today. I went out for 5 minutes and it was raining. So I'm very thankful to get time with you right now.
Yes, this is, typically it's a Zoom background, but this one's actually real today. So
good. Well, hopefully everyone's feeling bright and awake right now from this. And it's great to get some time with you. I do want to hear a little bit about Amplify and kind of your story there, but would you mind just giving us a background on you and then we'll talk about the business?
Sure. Yeah. Happy to jump into it. I sort of came from a family lineage of life insurance. Both my parents were life insurance agents for about 25 years. And they say the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. So I couldn't get away from insurance myself. And started a financial planning agency back in 2014. During that time until 2019, I really just sort of helped families as well as, businesses with both financial planning, but also insurance as a major part of that, and went pretty deep in the realm of life insurance use for savings and investments, helping sort of our customers who are typically affluent families and also businesses at the time, both save and invest tax efficiently through their life insurance policy, as well as protect their assets or their family. And was just very fascinated by that side of the industry, because most modern consumers, if you were to go down the street and ask somebody what a variable life insurance or private placement life insurance policy is, they would have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And yet, it's a very beneficial vehicle that's frequently used by the 1%. So that's kind of what came, the genesis of the idea of Amplify sort of came to be.
Well, and so they definitely wouldn't know the terms, and you only mentioned two, and there's plenty more that I've seen them. I have no clue what that is.
Yeah.
But even the way you're talking about it, I think for the average consumer, outside of the wealthier part of the population that's maybe more exposed to it, when you hear life insurance, it's like, oh, if you die, your family gets some money. It's a death benefit kind of thing. You're talking about it as more of a holistic tool in someone's financial planning, wealth planning, regardless of their socioeconomic status. It's about trying to figure out how they retire. And there's lots of different things, not just your 401k or your savings or pension or whatever you have. That life insurance is actually a pretty common tool that, at least for some folks, that can be used to help with retirement planning.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, this type of vehicle can, I sort of mention vehicle because that's really what it is, rather than when we think of life insurance, as you mentioned, we think of a death benefit. But in reality, it's actually a vehicle that can be able to do many things for an individual's financial plan and financial future. It can really be that puzzle piece to kind of help you net more from your 401k, help you balance out your risk, right? Help you protect, your financial future. That's, your retirement future, or be used as an education fund, or protect your family, right? There's just multiple things that it can be that people don't correlate with life insurance or a death benefit often.
Well, so it was in your blood, it's in your genes. I get that. And that's like the two ways people get into insurance is either your parents were agents or it was by accident. You fall into the first group. But then you were living it firsthand and seeing it. How do you get from that to, and then obviously I want to get into what Amplify is, but how do you get from that to I should start, we should figure out how to solve for something. What was the thing you were trying to solve for that you felt like a need's not being met?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say, a couple different components. One is that a lot of modern consumers that I would meet, or who are my peers, or even myself, when we think about how we purchase financial products today, and when I'm meeting with sort of modern digital first consumers that are learning about this product for the first time, I think there's one, you realize that there's a gap in the market in regards to education, but also two, the way that we're offering these products are just not the way that I myself consume. As a as a customer, how I sign up for financial products or how I learn about financial products today is just really not the way that the current industry is designed for. And
Yeah.
I think it that's sort of a barrier, even back then when I was running a traditional agency, and working with customers. Like those were the headwinds, like as an agent myself. But at the same time, it's also one of those things where you know that the industry has to go towards this direction, and maybe
Yeah.
they're kind of comfortable in where they're at today. But come another decade or two, absolutely, the industry has to be transformed and evolve in this manner. And I want it to be at the front of that rather than on the back end of that.
Well, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I am so curious that you said 2019. So this is all pre-COVID. And that, like, I've had a number of other sort of traditional life insurance folks on before, from Allianz, Northwestern Mutual, other companies. And there was this talk about, how that forced a lot of the change they've been trying to make, or building tools for it, forced a lot of the, investment professionals or financial advisors or what have you on the distribution side to adopt some of those tools. Do you do you think, given where the bulk of the industry is today, would you have felt the same way if this was 2022 instead of 2019, and you had that feeling? You think you still would have come to the same conclusion, or do you think enough of the industry has changed now?
I would say, even more so, right? Even more so, I would have came to that conclusion.
Not less. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely more so. I mean, because in 2019, frankly, the traditional side of distribution is, the typical, life insurance agent that you would think of is, an individual that is typically on the older side, right? Is, offering, life insurance to. I think the industry is not as diverse as we would all like it
Yeah.
to be, right, at
Yeah.
this point in time. And so back then, even for myself, um, life insurance agents and life insurance agencies, they typically build their own book of business. So the
Yeah.
customer I was interacting with and interfacing with at that time, even before COVID, are not the type that would typically, want to invite you over to learn about life insurance or to learn about, sit across the kitchen table, as we would say, right?
Yeah.
That's just not really how we purchase products, and that's not the norm of the demographic that I was exposed to. And so even back then, these were the headwinds that I was encountering myself.
Yeah.
And post COVID, in a digital world, I think it's even more so that consumers, they don't really sort of purchase products in that face-to-face manner the way that we traditionally would offer
Yeah.
insurance for the last couple of decades.
Yeah, I think I was thinking too close-minded on that, without thinking about the fact that, yes, the tools on the traditional side have evolved, but the consumer side evolved even further. It's like that wasn't a static goal line. All right, so I jumped ahead, but I should have been like, well, tell us about Amplify, because this was this moment in 2019. You had this sense of like, okay, more complex products that are serving a variety of needs, not just paying your loved ones when you die. Something most people are not accessing. It's hard to do that. It's not tailored to them. What do you end up building out of that? Like, what is Amplify?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say, traditionally, life insurance, as we mentioned, I think when you move towards the high net worth and ultra high net worth, these vehicles and these sort of wealth building aspects of life insurance, including sort of, permanent life insurance type of policies, become much more frequently known and also frequently used. Like, for example, private placement life insurance policies where you can invest in private equity and other types of policies, or even, variable life insurance policies where you can invest in public equities. They become much more cost efficient as you move up towards, higher net worth, families and that type of customer base and demographic. However, this vehicle clearly can exist from a regulatory point of view. And I think that's the really premise of Amplify. If we can take this sort of vehicle that is much more cost efficient and much more transparent in the high net worth and ultra high net worth space, and be able to democratize access to this type of vehicle to the everyday consumer, and help them invest in public equities via their life insurance policy and reap all of the benefits as well as the peace of mind. Today, there are products that exist along this realm. However, they tend to be much more expensive and very convoluted. A lot of it is because of sort of the traditional distribution that we've gotten accustomed to. And I think Amplify really wanted to turn that model, on its head in a sense where, we can be able to, one, optimize and streamline not just the operations of it, but also change the way that we think about life insurance product design and innovation, as well as how we think about taking the back end and, and building a very different distribution front end, and being able to access underserved markets, and also being able to access more digital first markets as well, that's traditionally really sort of disconnected to the life insurance industry. And that actually can be able to also relate into a much more cost efficient life insurance product in itself.
So it's a distribution story, it's a product story, it's maybe an education story as well. Like what are the things that you had to build then to make this? Well, first of all, I should say you're selling on a direct basis, right? So you're selling directly to insureds purely online. Is there a human
Yes.
component as well?
Great questions. So we do sell direct to consumer, but we also sell through B2B2C digital partners as well.
Okay.
So with Amplify, we started off direct to consumer. That really was a sandbox for us
Yeah.
to learn about who our customers are, because I think the opportunity that we have with Amplify is that we can build a customer centric life insurance platform. Whereas a traditional, life insurance world is built around that agent, because that's really the customer for life insurance carriers. For a
Yeah.
lot of the value chain is the agent,
Yeah.
and competing for the agent's attention in business. Whereas with Amplify, we wanted to change that and really think about, what does the consumer want to buy versus what does the agent want to sell. And I think, ultimately, we started off direct to consumer for that reason as well, to build the product journey, to build the educational journey, and to understand what people want to buy in a data driven manner. So I think that's why we started direct to consumer, but now we've expanded to B2B2C digital partners as well. We have the API infrastructure to build into the fintech ecosystem, and that's sort of unique in the industry as well.
Are you able to say some of the partners or the types of partners that then you're building into? Like what sort of fintechs would you connect into?
Yeah, I would say, it ranges from, both sort of fintech content platforms to digital banks to digital RIAs, and, digital wealth management platforms.
Okay. So it's still, but it's in the universe. It's not, like you said, it's fintech. So it's like, it's still in the financial services world. There's a reason why someone is there and would also be open to thinking about what Amplify has to offer.
Yeah, I was just going to say that with a lot of our adjacent partners, or adjacent sort of players in this space, like the term insurtechs of the world, they tend to focus a little bit more on being that marketplace of
Yeah.
insurance products. So, for example, the policy geniuses of the world that offer, term insurance as well as PNC and other types of insurance. Whereas with permanent life insurance and life insurance products that are focused on savings and investments, lean more towards the financial planning and wealth management side of the sort of partnership ecosystem.
Yeah.
And that's really where we've been able to kind of grow into more and more.
That makes sense. I think the thing I'm most curious about is it's sort of on the complexity side. And you said like so like what do agents want to sell versus what does the consumer want to buy, the whole bought versus sold dilemma of life insurance. And especially as you get to the complexity of the version of life insurance that you're talking about. And that's why I said, like, it's not just distribution, it's got to be product and all these other things. How do you solve for that? Like, how do you create something that can be bought and not sold? And do you end up dumbing it down? Like what do you need to do to make this a product that can live that way? And I sort of ask, wondering if our sense that it always had to be sold because it's so complex is wrong. Like, is that wrong? Does it need simplification? Like, how have you solved for this?
It's a great question. I would say it's definitely multifaceted. It's not necessarily a single simple solution. On one hand, to your point, I would argue that to a certain extent, it was always sold because it only could be sold, right?
Yeah,
You can't actually purchase this type of product digitally outside of Amplify, and be able to get a quote and be able to
yeah,
get a customized version, because all of this, the product details are really locked behind agent portals, even to this day. There's no comparison capability, and consumers, are very much aware of that as well. They feel that, it is a very much of a black box, right, in regards to actually being able to do their own due diligence and be able to look into comparing, and finding the right product that best fits their preferences and their needs, rather than just buying what the agent is looking to offer to them.
yeah.
So I think that's absolutely one aspect, and that's what we wanted to prove out when we initially launched in 2020, was that customers are willing to make the end-to-end purchasing journey with us, digitally, without having to meet with somebody face to face and really be offered this product, in the traditional manner of distribution.
So you didn't sort of respecting the customer and their intelligence. You don't have to. I mean, that's the argument I heard. Is like you could never do this with anything but term. So we have to go to term, and it has to be simple. And I get that argument, but to your point, how would you know? Because we've never tried with this stuff before. So you
Exactly.
largely, the products are the products as they have been, or like what? I'm curious, like structurally in the products, what sorts of things have you changed or addressed, or maybe created? Like I know on the term side, they've created flexibility where you can adjust it regularly, and that's not something that even term really offered before, without canning it and buying a new policy and getting rated when you're older. And so what are the sorts of things that would change on the product side to enable this, or that you can change because now it's flexible and digital?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I would say that it's actually the opposite direction, as you would imagine, that this complex product, we've actually made it more simple.
Okay.
So there's, I think, so many different types of permanent life insurance products under the sun, and part of the reason for that is because carriers wanted to, build in a lot of the complexity to help agents sell, right? To build in sort of all of these, edge case scenarios, as well as, to build in complexities that help the, illustration component to make it more attractive, right,
Mhm.
for, agents to be able to sell this product. Where, I think for us, we've tried to, be able to strip away as much of the unnecessary complexity and also the unnecessary costs
Yeah.
to the consumer as much as possible. And I think the real, the real opportunity, lies in it is in the education, but it's really more fundamentally in the transparency. I would argue that there's much more complex, financial products today that can be offered to consumers. I mean, if you were to look a couple decades ago, there were stockbrokers, right? And today, most of us have a digital brokerage account.
Yeah.
And today, I would say even options trading, or there's a whole new world of financial products
Yeah.
today, in the cryptocurrency world, that are being sort of traded, that you know the essentially, my belief is that complexity is, shouldn't necessarily hinder us from being able to purchase things. It's really about transparency, knowing what we want to buy and being able to do the due diligence, ourselves, is really sort of the key towards, being a different industry.
I think that's a really well made point. Um, so where are you at in your journey then? You went live in 2020 selling policies. You've added in partnerships and new ways to sell in addition to selling direct, which I agree that's the best way to learn, is like we'll be at the coal face with the customers. Where and I know like we got introduced through Anthemis, who was a seed investor. you just announced another round. You guys have been through a lot in the 3.5 or so years. Where are you at in your journey?
Yeah. So we closed our seed round, led by Anthemis, in March of 2020, and then we closed our Series A in October of 2021, and we recently just closed another round, led by Munich Re Ventures, that we just announced last week. So it's been, quite a journey for us,
Yeah.
in a very short duration of time, and ultimately over sort of 2020, we just launched our initial customer-facing platform. In 2021 is really when we've sort of looked to build more of that infrastructure and more components of that customer journey. So today, customers, they don't just they're not just looking to sort of find the amount of protection that they need, but we take a look into their financial goals, their investment risk tolerance, as well as their underwriting risk profile to be able to customize a policy. And this year we've launched the full sort of digital journey where a customer can submit an application, can complete payments and delivery online without really having necessarily to interact with an agent. Even sort of digitally interact with an agent. For us, we do have a team of experts that are there at any time that a customer needs via chat or via phone, but they can also be able to complete that customer journey and customize policy and look through various different options for them in a completely digital manner. So we've sort of built that initial, foundation. And I think in the next, in the next sort of couple of months through sort of 2023, we're taking the next step of that, which is now that we have so much sort of customer insights and data insights around who our customers are and how they wish to interact with our platform, and have an idea of different demographics of individuals, whether it's a single mother, or whether it's a young family, or whether it's a someone without kids, even looking to build tax efficient wealth, and sort of these various different personas and demographics of how they wish to customize their policy, what types of plans they're looking for, how much premium they're looking to offer, and how much coverage. A lot of these data insights that we've been able to gather over the last couple of years, we want to step into the realm of product design and pricing as well. So working with various different partners within the value chain to be able to offer unique products with our distribution. So instead of having to go through sort of an agent channel that can be very expensive for various different components of the value chain, I think for us, we're able to connect to an underserved demographic. That's our customers today through the direct consumer channel, but also through the fintech ecosystem, through embedded and integrated partnership channels.
Mm-hmm.
We can be able to build much more cost efficient products that really do help towards the goal of wealth accumulation through a life insurance policy. So we want to be able to distribute a unique set of life insurance products to market.
Awesome. Where does all this go for the industry? Like, what do you see changing looking forward in your space, and kind of what does that mean for you? Like, you don't have to give away the whole company's strategic plan, but obviously you see evolution, you see change coming in the industry, and maybe you see yourselves at the forefront of that. So what do you see broadly if we look out 5 years or so for, in particular, this more complex, not just the term, not to discredit the term, folks, they're great, but in the tougher part that people didn't think could be tackled?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that, the world of insurance, especially life insurance as well, the market is huge. So I definitely don't think that it's it's sort of a, one player, take all type of space. I would say there's a lot of room for collaboration, and it's necessary for collaboration, given sort of the high regulatory barriers, as well as just sort of the general ecosystem and collaboration within the value chain is absolutely necessary in order for us to transform and evolve as an industry. So I think, for the permanent space, specifically, my prediction is that in the next sort of, maybe not 5 years, but maybe in the next couple of decades, these types of products will be able to be accessed much more digitally than they are today. There will be a lot more transparency in this side of the industry, but there still will be a space for agents, but maybe more for bespoke products, more upstream and up market, where there does require more of that white glove service. But I think over time, much like what happened in other areas of financial services, that that these products will have to have a lot more transparency and a lot more digital enablement in regards to access.
It's really interesting, and I think your whole point of like, we said it couldn't be done because no one had ever done it. It's sort of like Roger Bannister breaking through the, is it 4-minute mile? Yeah, 4-minute mile mark.
Right.
Which been broken. I was going to say 6 minutes. That's not it. It's been broken a ton of times. I think that record only stood for like months when he broke it, and then it just kept getting broken. There's probably a lot of those instances, and I think what you've done at Amplify hopefully shows people, like, let that be the 4-minute mark for the industry, that actually, like, we always said we couldn't because we never did, but maybe there's a new approach and consumers need it. Not just the ultra wealthy, but plenty of people can use help in this kind of planning, and that's only going to get stronger as more digital generations become the entire population. It's really interesting. Yeah, and congratulations on what you all have achieved, and I'm excited to keep watching it. I don't understand so much of that space, but that's part of the problem, is like we just sort of leave it at that and like, oh well, we never could. Well, maybe we can if we're able to interact differently.
Yeah, I for one am extremely excited about the future of the industry and where it's going to take us in the next 3 to 5 years, or even longer than that. Over, I would say, the last couple of decades, the percentage of customers, especially the younger demographics of customers who are getting life insurance, have become less and less over the last couple of decades. But if I were to hopefully, if I could transport into the future and take a look at the industry, I would hope that people would be able to access much more out of these products that can create so much more value in an individual and in a customer's life and in a family. And I think, really sort of that will allow the industry to be able to tap into much more of these, more sort of younger, modern demographics that are really up and coming, building wealth for themselves and starting families.
Oh, that's excellent. I really appreciate you taking some time today. And I also love that, like, your perspective, having been on the front line selling it before and like living that and seeing firsthand what was needed. But Hanna, it's great to get some time with you. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you so much for, allowing me to participate and also share some of our thoughts over here on this side of the industry. But yeah, it was really a pleasure to be on, and excited to kind of see what the future brings for all of us.
Thank you to Hanna for spending some time, and for the team at Amplify for giving her up. But more importantly, I think what they're doing at Amplify and what Hanna was talking about is this challenge we need to give to ourselves, that, oh, this is too complicated, or it has to be sold this way, or this needs to have much deeper advice and hand-holding. Maybe not. And great point she made that, well, we had never done it any other way. So, it had only been sold. So of course it has to be sold. Well, maybe there are some other places where we can challenge things, and it may mean we need to simplify, or we need to change the product a bit. Maybe it's a customer journey question. And if we change the journey, we can allow for different ways of engaging. Really interesting stuff. And it's very cool to see them doing what they're doing in a space where everyone had sort of cordoned it off. And it's like, in life insurance, you can do term, and that's basically it. Well, Amplify is showing us that you can do more than that. So, kudos to them. And I wish them lots of success going forward, if for no other reason than what it creates in terms of possibility for the entire industry. But of course, for the people on the team and everyone they're supporting, I hope that they're super successful as well. So thank you again to Hanna for joining me on the show. Thank you to all of you for tuning in. I hope this has been another valuable lesson and set of insights for you to take from Amplify's story and like all of the episodes that I put out there. I hope you enjoy it. If you're liking this, huge ask of all of you is head back to whatever podcast platform you're on, give it a like or a 5-star review or whatever a really good vote of confidence from you looks like, and write a review. Take a minute or two and just pop in your thoughts on the show. That is actually super, super helpful. It helps to spread the show. That all feeds into their algorithm so that they know what shows to share with others and what to promote or not. So if you like the show, the best way you can give back is by taking just a minute or two of your time. And of course, I'm so appreciative of that. And if you're on YouTube, throw a thumbs up, give it a like, subscribe if you can. And most importantly, I think, is telling someone you care about in the industry, that you want to inspire in the industry, you want to see fulfilling the opportunities that lie in front of them. Share the show with them, tell them about it, send them a link to it. future-of-insurance.com/podcast is the easiest way to get to it. I hope this is valuable for all of you. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you back here next time.